frankly, we just saw an example of epic fuckery. Because they basically said that our examples of personal connections leading to internships and our examples of extracurricular activities were too extreme. Well, we see that this is too extreme, that us studying in halves is the extreme example, and that you are totally blindfolded by living in this kind of environment. Because we say that living in Hubs, living in Cogito, actually having a chance to be in a debating club with functioning English speakers itself is actually a luxury for most students in Korea. Because I actually, with a real sense of being in a typical Korean school from Gyeonggi High School, let me give you examples of what clubs actually happen in our sense. Because I've been in an English newspapers club. And what happens, we don't write English newspapers. We look at English newspapers, and if we don't translate every single word in the correct form, we just hit the crap out of every single student under our people. Because we don't see these kind of really quality clubs or quality extracurricular activities happening in these typical high schools and typical Korean students.
Sir.
Because they ask for our harm. Our harm is that people who are poor or people who live in rural areas don't have the opportunity to participate in these debate competitions and MUNs, because basically if they don't get that private education not provided basically in the place where they live, or not provided because they don't have enough money, they just go to MUN and NSCC and talk in Korean, and they get kicked out because they don't know the rules of debate. Because these are the problems that we see in the opposition, that they've been totally blindfolded by their luxurious environment. Disprove me.
That's basically saying, okay, let's send these guys to Harvard. The poor kids, the government has a duty to send these guys to all the benefits that the rich kids get.
The government has a duty to provide an equal opportunity to every student. And we say that forcing students to say, you have to participate in MUN, you have to participate in debate competitions, you have to participate in extracurricular activities that are not provided in those rural areas, that are not provided by their parents, forcing them to do all those things, and at the same time saying that if you don't do all these things, you can't go to Seoul National University, you can't go to any kind of typical high-quality university if you don't do these things itself, is forcing these students saying that people who have enough money can go to Harvard University, people without money can go to SNU, people who don't have the opportunity can't. This itself, we believe, is a harm, and we believe that we have to solve this. This is why we talk about standardized tests and GPA, because in those cases, as our first and second speaker clearly elaborated, it takes much less, first of all, private education in order to do these things. You don't have to go to academies to learn how to talk in Korean. If you just actually put enough diligence in those aspects, we say that you can't achieve much. If you don't have enough that capacity, as I talked about, you don't have the capacity to excel in NUN, NSCC, or go to Mongolia and say that you have potential for being a global leader. Yes, sir.
Well, basically, if you consider things that way, then we have GPA systems and we have other admission systems. We're saying that we can keep these, but at the same time, it's unfair to have a blanket policy on
the reason why we have the policy itself to abolish admission option systems is because the majority of high-quality universities, international, and also in Korea specifically, because we're debating in Korea, actually follow this system. This is why we believe that the harms are too big. This is why we have to abolish the system. Now, let me move on to my fatal one clash, because we believe that this debate has basically condensed, and the crux of the debate basically was the definition of education, why education exists in a whole. And as our three speakers, including me, have been emphasizing throughout the debate, we say that the purpose of education is to provide an equal opportunity to every student and to provide social mobility, to actually give an opportunity to those people who are born under farmers to become politicians and to become diplomats. We say that this can only happen if we give an equal ground for these people to basically study for a standardized test, for example, or to study in their own school, in their own environment, and achieve their own GPA scores. We say that, as I explained so much in my rebuttals, that basically you cannot achieve this in these rural areas, you cannot achieve this in those poor areas. Now, basically, as our second speaker said, because we're basically burdening and forcing these people to participate in these extracurricular activities, because we actually burden these people with 3,000 applications, because we burden these people to actually focus their interest in such a specific major and dig in that major, we are actually forcing these people to, for example, forcing these high school students to choose what they'll do for the rest of their 60 lives of their lives, and say that if you don't follow these, if you don't follow your interests, if you don't have that major that you have, then you can't go to universities. Because basically, you're basically saying that because they've been emphasizing so much on that, people can't actually study what they really want to study. People don't study have the major. So basically, they're forcing that everybody should have a major. That everybody should have a specific major in studying. That I study engineering, I study literature, I study natural sciences. And basically, that we're forcing all these students to study those specific areas. We say that that itself is forcing students to do something that we shouldn't do. Because the purpose of education, as I said, is providing equal opportunity. Second of all, the purpose of education isn't only about self-realization, but actually providing these students with open perspective in doing what they want to do. We say that, as I said in my POI, as our second speaker said, that this is not late when you go to university. The reason why we have majors in university is because these people can actually go there, study lots of subjects that they didn't have the opportunity to study in high school, and that these people can actually think about what they do with their lives in university.
Sure.
But we can't expect and force these high school students to think about what they'll do with their 70 years life in their crucial state of puberty, as we clearly see that our deputy leader of opposition is, and forcing these students to choose what they want to do for the rest of their lives. Now, going to the crux of the problem, because as our first and second, and I will emphasize once more, that it's impossible for people who live in rural areas, and it's impossible for these poor people to participate in these extracurricular activities. It's impossible for these people to have an equal playing ground with those people who can. This is the crux of the unfairness that we've been talking about. This is the crux of the problem that we have to solve, and we believe that standardized tests and GPA-based curriculums, and also having more interviews and essays can solve this problem. Now, we say that we are looking at a broken system, and them just saying that basically them talking about private education, them talking about social mobility itself is a contradiction to their whole stance, because we say that they've been blindfolded by this kind of luxurious environment, that we believe that these students cannot participate in these extracurricular activities as they so emphasize. We see a broken system that basically, that first of all, that we see that students don't have an opportunity in participating in those things that we require for students to go into universities. Second of all, we see corrupt and flawed systems in which teachers write about their own students in their schools and say that they put every kind of application to their own students in the universities, saying that our student was perfect and backwards. Now we see these problems in status quo. Third of all, we see private education being aggravated in the status quo after President Lee's regime. We see that these systems are broken. Now, we should let go of these broken systems. We say that we should go to a functioning system in which we can actually have a fair meritocracy. Because rewarding what people do, rewarding for these people for their diligence itself, is what the current society should go for. And we believe that the really epic show that our deputy leader of opposition showed us was just a very epic result of puberty. Very sorry for that, sir. And let me yield this then. Thank you.